So, what do you picture when you think of a broadcast transmitter site? Maybe a room full of glowing vacuum tubes, giant dials, that kind of thing? Well, I'm here to tell you that picture is pretty much ancient history. The modern transmitter room has gone through a massive, quiet revolution. It's really become a specialized corner of the IT world, where knowing your way around a network is just as critical as understanding radio frequencies. And just so you know, this is part 31 of a 40-part series on modern broadcast transmission. In this explainer, we're going to dig into how these two worlds, IT and broadcast, have totally merged, and how that's changed everything from the studio all the way to the top of that antenna. You know, when you look at a big broadcast tower like this one, it's easy to just see it as a giant piece of metal blasting out a signal. But in reality, it's the final output device for an incredibly sophisticated data network. The signal that gets here started out as digital bits and bytes, traveled over IP networks, and was processed by what is, for all intents and purposes, a powerful, highly specialized server. And this comparison right here really nails the difference. The old-school world of broadcast engineering was all about analog signals, these massive tube-based machines, and a ton of manual tweaking. The new world, it's digital signal processing, solid-state gear, and managing the whole shebang over an IP network. This convergence is exactly why IT skills have become so front and center in this field. So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to go inside the modern transmitter to see how it really works like a high-power server. Then, we'll check out how the entire system talks on the network. And finally, we'll follow the signal path from code to coverage to see exactly where that network meets the airwaves. All right, let's start with the hardware itself. Seriously, the best way to wrap your head around a modern transmitter is to stop thinking of it as some mysterious radio box and start seeing it for what it is, a very specialized, very high-powered server. It takes data in, it processes that data, and then it spits it out in a totally different form. And here's the basic journey that signal takes inside that server. The audio comes in and gets processed, then it hits the two most critical parts, the exciter, that's the brain, and the power amplifiers, which are the muscle. After a little filtering and combining, boom, it's on its way to the antenna. So let's start with the brain. Okay, this right here is the heart of the modern transmitter, the exciter. This is where the real magic happens. Instead of old-school analog circuits, modern exciters use something called direct digital synthesis, or DDS. What that means is they create the entire broadcast signal using pure computation. The signal is literally born from math, inside a digital processor, just like your computer creates graphics or sound. It's signal generation through code. So if the exciter is the brain, then the power amplifiers are the muscle. And today, we're talking about some very smart muscle. Gone are the days of those dangerous high-voltage vacuum tubes. Now it's all about modular solid-state amplifiers. Think of them like blade servers in a data center or even a RAID array of hard drives. If one of these modules fails, you can often just pull it out and slot in a new one while you're still on the air. That's called hot swapping. The transmitter just keeps on humming at slightly reduced power, a concept we call graceful degradation. And listen, this isn't just a handy metaphor. As the source material points out, this whole approach is pretty much lifted directly from the IT playbook. This focus on redundancy, on hot swapping, on modular design, that's exactly how high-availability data centers are built. The key thing to get here is that the transmitter hardware now runs on principles any IT pro would instantly get. Okay, so now that we've seen how the transmitter itself basically thinks like a computer, let's move on. Let's look at how the entire broadcast system communicates, like one, using standard IP networking as its backbone. Take a look at the back of this piece of gear. You've got your standard audio connectors, sure, but look what's right next to them. Ethernet ports. This is for something called audio over IP, or AOIP. It means the actual program audio, the music, the news, everything isn't traveling on some special audio wire anymore. Nope, it's been chopped up into data packets and it's zipping along on the exact same kind of network that carries your emails and web pages. So AOIP is basically the tech that wraps up high-quality audio into neat little IP packets so it can be sent over regular computer networks. And this changes everything about how studios and transmitters are linked. Instead of needing these crazy expensive, dedicated lines, broadcasters can just use fiber, the internet, or private networks. The flexibility is just incredible. And the network takeover doesn't end with the audio. How do you actually control the transmitter these days? Forget physical dials. You use this, a web dashboard. An engineer can now monitor and control a massive, multi-kilowatt broadcast transmitter from a laptop or even their phone just by using a simple web browser.
exactly the same way you'd log in to configure your Wi-Fi router at home.
And if you look at the feature list for this remote management, well, it reads like an IT admin's Christmas list. We're talking standard HTML5 interfaces, they plug right into network management systems using SNMP, they shoot out automated email and text alerts if something's wrong, they log tons of data, and, most importantly, they're secured using standard IT tools like VPNs and firewalls. Now, this whole tech shift isn't just for kicks or convenience. There are some huge real-world benefits. One of the absolute biggest is efficiency. Older tube transmitters were, frankly, terrible. They'd only turn about 30% of the electricity they sucked from the wall into a useful radio signal. The other 70% just wasted as heat. Modern solid-state designs are way better, and some of the advanced AM transmitters can top 60% efficiency. So what does that efficiency gain mean in practice? It means saving a ton of money. The source material actually crunched the numbers, and upgrading just one typical 10-kilowatt FM transmitter from an old tube design to a modern, efficient one can save over $11,000 a year just in electricity. That's not even counting what you save on cooling and maintenance. So we've established the transmitter is a networked server. We get that. But how does all that code and all that data actually end up covering an entire city with a signal? Let's connect that digital infrastructure back to the physical act of broadcasting. It all comes down to the antenna system. This is the very last step in the chain. It's the thing that takes that super controlled, digitally born, IP-transported signal and converts it from electrical energy into electromagnetic waves that millions of radios can pick up. It's where the network finally hits the open air. And, this whole transition didn't just happen overnight. This has been a long time coming. The move from analog to digital has been this deliberate, decades-long evolution. It started with things like HD radio development, then the big analog TV shutoff in 2009 in the US, and now the approval and rollout of the next-gen TV standard, ATSC 3.0. And this, ATSC 3.0, is where it all comes full circle. The new standard isn't just a broadcast signal. It is, at its core, an IP-based delivery system. It uses the same kind of tech as our Wi-Fi networks to deliver things like 4K video and even integrate directly with the internet. The broadcast itself is now literally a data stream. Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from all this. The job of a broadcast engineer today is fundamentally interdisciplinary. As the source material puts it, you still need to understand the traditional RF engineering, for sure, but now you also have to understand digital signal processing and, critically, IT networking. The fields haven't just converged, they've merged. And that really leaves us with a fascinating question for the future, doesn't it? As these next-gen TV and radio standards deliver broadcasts as IP data packets straight to our devices, that line between traditional broadcasting and internet streaming, well, it's getting almost impossibly blurry. So you have to ask, where does the broadcast tower end, and where does the internet begin?